You recently gave birth to a new human being. Congratulations, you're a superwoman. And sometimes you feel like you need a little bit of detox, a little bit of cleanse to feel better in your body and in your mind. But how to detox during postpartum? Is it actually recommended? How should we do this without hurting ourselves or hurting our babies? You will leave this video with an actual plan to detox as a postpartum mom. My name is Manon. I'm an Ayurvedic life coach for women and especially for mamas, and I help them to reconnect to their true self through self-care, rituals, lifestyle changes, emotional healing, trauma healing, to feel more radiant and nurtured in their life. So if that's you, feel free to subscribe to this channel, join this beautiful community, and let's get into the video. So Ayurveda would say that a detox needs to be customed and tailored to your own mind-body type. If you are more Vata dominant, Pitta dominant, and Kapha dominant. If those words sound totally unfamiliar to you, no worries. It's just the three types of energy that can dominate your body and your mind. So Vata would be more the airy, moving, drying energy, when Pitta would be the very fiery, transformative, digesting energy, and Kapha would be the builder, the lubricator with earth and water. I'll make another video if you want to go in depth in those three doshas. But Ayurveda would recommend to adapt a detox to your mind-body type, but also to your very specific needs. And as a postpartum mom, you have very specific needs. You're not just a regular woman that gave birth. You are a woman who actually went through a huge transformation, a huge workout, especially if you gave birth naturally, and you have specific needs, especially if you're breastfeeding. And I'm saying this because breastfeeding requires a lot out of you. It's important to remember that if you are breastfeeding, a quarter of your total energy is used to produce and deliver milk to your baby. When I learned this, I was mind blown. Your brain uses 20% of your energy, which is huge already. Breastfeeding requires 25% of your energy. So you imagine that, of course, mom brain, because if 25% of your energy goes to producing milk and delivering it to your baby, you can imagine that there's a little less energy for other things. You want to be mindful of this because so many people, and especially women, drain themselves and exhaust themselves, ended up with deficiencies because they want to detox, but they don't take into consideration that detox has to be very mild, especially during postpartum, because otherwise you're going to end up exhausted, your digestion is not going to be good, and it's going to take a while to regrow from that. So only very mild detox, no fasting, no master cleanses. I would even recommend against liver detox, even though it's a beautiful way to cleanse, but not during this time of your life. And my favorite practice to do during postpartum as a breastfeeding mom is the mono diet, that's how we call it in Ayurveda, of khichdi. Khichdi is a meal that is composed of rice and some types of lentils with spices, usually some ghee, some oil, and that's it. Sometimes you can add a little bit of vegetables if you digest them well, but most of the time khichdi is that very simple meal of rice, some lentils, spices, and fat. I love this because it's still nourishing. So you still get nourishment for your body, you still get healthy fats for your body, which you need so much during postpartum, especially if you're breastfeeding. But it's also vegetarian, so it's going to be lighter to digest, and it's the same food you're going to eat. When you eat so many different type of meals, so one type during breakfast, another type during lunch, another one during dinner, your body has to adjust to each food that you're going to eat. So the more you simplify your plate, the more you simplify your meals, the easier it's going to be to digest. And that's exactly what we want. Because if you use less energy to digest your food, you're going to have more energy to cleanse and to detox your body. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this recipe that you will find in this description of this video with adaptations, of course, and you're going to make sure that you eat enough fat. Don't neglect the amount of fat that you need. You can easily have 2 tablespoons of fat in each meal. And what you're going to do is that you're going to eat this same meal morning, lunch, dinner. If you need snacks in between because you're still hungry, you're gonna eat the exact same thing. And this is gonna be such a reset for your body in a very mild way. When you see this meal, you may think, but that's not detox at all. Like, this is very filling, that's a meal. But I will assure you that after 2 or 3 days of this, you're gonna feel that you're gonna be more hungry. You're gonna feel more clear. Your thoughts are gonna clear. Your mind is gonna clear. Maybe your bowel movement is gonna get better. So don't neglect that very mild detox. Trust me, it is gonna be effective, especially if you drink enough water next to it, and especially warm water. And you support it by resting, by being in the nature, and all of this is really gonna support your cleanse. How to know when to stop the cleanse? Well, you can start with 1 day and see how it goes, and at the end of the day you can continue for another day. The best way to know when your body got rid of toxin is to look at your tongue. So you're going to stick your tongue out like this. You're going to look in the mirror and see if you see a lot of white coat on your tongue. It's normal that this coating increases during the detoxification process. So you might see that it increasing as you do the diet, the mono diet. That's totally normal. What you want to do is keep going, and it's going to clear out. Especially if you scrape your tongue every morning, that's going to help. Also, when you open your mouth, when you have saliva that is like this filament, you can feel it even in your mouth when your saliva is more thick, more sticky a little bit. This means that your body also has toxins, so you want to have a very clear tongue. And you want to feel that your mouth is also clean without having to cleaning and brushing all day long. This is a really good way to see how you're going. Be mindful of your energy level. If you really feel that you're getting exhausted because you're not getting enough food, you might want to add a little more fat. So what I do usually is I add some avocado to my khichdi, and this goes a long way. And I also love to add some bone broth or chicken broth to add some proteins to it and to make it more unctuous, which we want during postpartum. We don't want something too dry, which lentils can be sometimes. So if you add some bone broth, chicken broth to it to make it more soupy, more liquidy, it's going to help a long way for you to have a very lubricating, unctuous meal. And you can, of course, add some avocado if you want more calories and if you need more calories during your cleanse. What I also love to recommend is to pair this mono diet with some tea, herbal teas. And I'm going to give you the 3 different teas that I would recommend depending on your main doshas. So if you have 2 doshas, you can adjust it regarding to the season you're in or the one that you feel the most. So if you're Vata dominant, or if that's what is dominant to you, you feel dryness, you feel anxious, you feel like restless, a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep, you may want to use fennel as an herbal tea to accompany this mono diet. It also prevents constipation and it supports your digestion. For a Pitta dosha, so this very fiery dosha, if you feel you have inflammation in your body or redness or too much heat or you sweat a lot, you might want to use turmeric in your tea. That is a beautiful spice for this dosha. Fennel works as well for a Pitta, so you can choose either one. And for Kapha dosha, you will feel it as a heaviness, as overweight or water retention, things like this. You may want to use Tulsi. Tulsi is called also holy basil. It's a beautiful herb that is supportive of digestion, that is supporting detoxing in your body and in your mind, and it clarifies your mind. I really like this plant, especially for Kapha dosha. And you can actually find this recipe or something similar in many traditions. So for example, in Greek medicine or Mediterranean medicine, you would use what they call ptisin. And ptisin is like a soup or a porridge made with barley. So it's actually very similar to khichdi in Ayurveda, but they use barley instead of rice. Hildegard from Bingen is also this healer from Europe, who would use what she called the fasting soup. So for people who need recovery after wounding or after giving birth, or because they're tired or they're sick, she would recommend drinking or eating, because it's a soupy porridge, exactly like the khichdi I just described, but using spelt. There's the same kind of recipe in many traditions, which I think is very powerful when you can see that those habits are crossed over many different traditions in many different places in the world. So even if khichdi is very related to Ayurveda, the principle of eating something very soupy with some grains and very little other food is found in many other ancient traditions of healing. So if you want to implement this mono diet, if you want to detox your body in a very respectful way as a postpartum mom, you will find all the details in the description of this video. You'll find the recipe, my plan on how to implement it, and everything I told you about in this video. And if you like this video, you would love this one where I give you the 3 mistakes that most postpartum moms make and how to remedy them. So I will see you there or in another video. And until next time, take great care of yourself to feel more radiant and nurtured.